Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 29th of January, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index. Dollar actually recovering a little bit off last week's lows, but still obviously looking very bearish on the charts as dollar index, and we're still short-term bearish. We do have a little bit of an upside recovery target here, about 2% upside, but that needs to be activated, and it hasn't happened yet. So we'll let you know when that does happen. The euro is starting to just come off the top a little bit with that dollar recovery, so we're not bearish yet, but on the short-term chart we are starting to just look lower. But the key thing is euro has activated this big upside target, so we need to be aware of that. Japanese yen, we see the dollar weakness here as well. And if we look at sterling, we see here that sterling is just starting to come through the cloud. And while I'm here this morning, we're announcing our Twitter compatibility today. I don't know if any of you are following me on Twitter, but Charts Today, @ChartsToday is my Twitter handle, and this is where I'm posting. But one of the key things with Updata, which is really cool in this latest version for users, is that you can tweet a chart. So I'm going to actually just tweet this chart now. And in fact, I just double check the 1 minute chart on sterling. We have these downside targets of about 1%, and then another one down to 136, giving us 3.5%. So it's given me a little bit of conviction that we're probably going to go lower. We have another downside target here, not quite activated yet. So I'm going to tweet this chart and say looks like, and here's your tweet. You've got your characters. You say looks like sterling. Sterling's run over for the short term with 60-minute cloud turning bearish. And this is something that all Updata users will be able to do. So I'm just putting a hashtag in there. And it just means that if you are posting on Twitter, you can do it now straight from your Updata chart. And that's now gone off to Twitter, and we'll have a look at that in a second. So sterling just starting to look a little bit more bearish there. Against the euro, we're seeing that really kicking through, and we do have a downside target. I can actually professional users can go a step further and tweak the whole desktop. So I can say here we can say sterling heading lower against the euro, and here I'll put a hashtag in GBPEUR, and so that whole desktop will go as well. So it's another way we can see that. But we see here that sterling's run is just starting to look like it's over for now for the short term. Same against the Swiss franc. And against the Aussie dollar, we're seeing that downturn as well. Bitcoin recovering a bit this morning. Back to bullish above the cloud here on the short-term chart, but very, very choppy. We see this real cycle here, anywhere from 11,750 to 10,250. So a very wide range here. We're up 3%. That's a small rise in terms of a normal day in Bitcoin, but we still do have these downside targets hanging over us, and it really does look like a top. We need to see the emergence of a high. Now the lagging line is not through yet, so the lagging line has got a lot of support here, or we go on for a few more weeks and we start to hit this 10,000 level. I'd say this 10,000 level is pretty critical for Bitcoin. The S&P 500 index ended strongly last week, making new highs again. The Nasdaq also, the Nasdaq 100 was up, making new all-time highs, looking strong, and the Dow also just pushing on further, 26,600, 30,000 really in the Dow's sights now. There are a shortage of upside targets. We've got one here for 28,000 on the Dow. That's 8% upside, but you'll notice just on all three of these indices, we are finding there's a shortage of upsides. We've got 9% upside on the S&P medium term, but no long-term target. So just a little bit disconcerting. The Russell 2000 does have better targets to the upside, both on the long-term chart. So, and this recovery is quite broad-based. We did make a new high on Friday, but still looking very strong. The future down, the S&P future down very slightly this morning. The Nasdaq E-mini down also just a little bit. FTSE 100 is up 0.2%, but still bearish below the cloud on the short-term chart. And the FTSE 250, much the same picture here, just struggling to really get motoring. But we are up this morning. FTSE 250 up 0.4%, so just looking stronger in the mid caps. The DAX actually just starting to find some support on the cloud on the short-term chart. We see that here. The Nikkei just turning a little bit bearish on that stronger yen. Hang Seng's first down day for a while, but the trend is unwavered. I mean, an amazing trend on the Hang Seng market, and Shanghai also holding its strength, although it was down at 1% overnight. The Sensex index looking strong, making new highs again, and the Australian market, having been closed for Australia Day on Friday, recovering quite strongly, up nearly 0.5% overnight. Brent crude sitting above the $70 level, still holding its bull trend. So when I see something like that, I can tweet it. And WTI also just pushing higher. US Natgas holding the high it was at 250, 260 at one stage, has come back below the cloud, so we are seeing a little bit of a sell-off after a big spike. Don't be surprised to see this 325, 320 area that we really struggled to get through for some time becoming an area of support. So just keep an eye out for that. We do have good upside targets, so that's what's quite key. Copper looking stronger than it was. And if we go straight to the gold price, gold had an amazing week last week, but we see here now this week we're just coming back into slightly bearish territory. We expect any short-term targets to be any short-term moves below the cloud to be short-lived, and we see here that we did activate this upside target to 21% last week, so that's quite key. Silver also not quite yet as bearish as gold, but interestingly recovering in that medium-term chart. So precious metals looking a lot better than they have been. US Treasury yields pushing much higher. We're at 2.71%, so making new highs, really running away here now. Looks like we will get yields going into the 3% area quite soon. We've got 14% upside target. Treasury yields all to the upside, so that's pricing in more US interest rates. Apple, we said last week, in fact we tweeted this, Apple was starting to look bearish in the short term, didn't really recover on Friday. Google looking stronger, Amazon also looking strong, and Facebook recovering, just touching that 190 mark, closing at 190 dead, really has been struggling to get into the 190s, been sitting in the 180s for some time, and Microsoft continuing to look strong, making new highs here, another very strong day on Friday. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Oh, before I go, just to check that tweet, those tweets that came in, so we can actually just see them. Remember, you can follow me on @charts today, and we see the tweets here. That's the sterling one kicking in, and if I could just sometimes it takes a little time for the tweet to actually go live on the site, and we see that there. So keep an eye on that at charts today, and until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.